What's up, everybody?
Welcome back to Mile Higher Podcast, episode 168.
And today,
yes,
we are talking about all things UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call them. USOs, exactly. We're going to be talking about unidentified flying objects that are flying around in our airspace all over the world. And specifically focusing on the Pentagon's UFO report that just happened to come out a few weeks ago. Actually, on June 25th is when the preliminary report was released. And we're going to be discussing that because I'm sure many of you have wondered what our thoughts are on it and, you know, what, or maybe you didn't even read it at all and you're just waiting for us to tell you what's in it. So we're going to go over all of that. We're also going to be talking about Dr. Stephen Greer's new film, The Cosmic Hoax, a little bit because he put out some interesting information in that. But we're really just going to be diving into the whole subject as a whole. I know we've covered it a number of times on the show, but today we're going to kind of cover some new stuff that I've uncovered, some new theories around, you know, what are these things flying around? It's just kind of crazy to think that, you know, there are so many sightings of these unidentified craft, and yet, you know, a lot of people don't even seem to care.
I think it's just that it's so overwhelming to people and scary to a point that you almost want to just bury your head in the sand and not hear anything about it. But now that it is being talked about so much in the mainstream and there's articles coming out all the time and new information kind of slowly leaking, a lot of it things that we've been talking about on this show for years. But to the average person, it's like really intimidating. And I think because there's so much information and a lot of it is false, it's hard to know where to look, or someone has heard like one stupid thing
that
is clearly not true, and they've kind of ruled out the entire world. Totally.
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you're getting your information from, and just the whole world of ufology in general is very, very torn right now. I mean, there's a lot of people in the community that are, you know, fighting with each other, and everybody's got kind of a different explanation for things, and everybody's got their own whistleblowers. But then their
whistleblowers say conflicting information. So, you know, not all of them are telling the truth.
Right. That's what's really hard about it is I think, honestly, I don't know if anybody really truly knows the truth about the phenomenon, but I think some people do have some nuggets of truth. But then again, I mean, it's hard to say because there's no way, you know, for any of us to definitively say that this is exactly what these things are. This is who's piloting them. This is where they come from.
This is how the government's handling it. This is what it could look like. What's the future going to be like? There's so many different theories. It's hard to navigate this entire world right now.
It really is. I mean, for, almost 100 years, the governments have been completely denying the existence of UFOs and being like, oh, you're just seeing weather balloons flying around. Or
wasn't it like 2004 that they even admitted that, you know,
it was like Area 51 was a thing, that they officially like declassified. Area 51
for years they just denied it.
It existed, and then Bob Lazar came out, you know, back in 60s, 70s, and you know, he was the first one to kind of out Area 51 because, you know, he claimed to work there. So it's interesting that all of a sudden, you know, we're seeing all of the media outlets starting to talk about it. And now we have To the Stars and Tom DeLonge's company and all of the associates he has with that, you know, David Mellon to, you know, some of these other individuals, Lou Elizondo, who was like the person that ran the Pentagon's UFO program. So all of this information has sort of started to be leaked to the public.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are having differing opinions about what direction is the government going to go with UFOs? Are they actually going to end up declassifying a lot of this information? Are we going to know the truth about the phenomenon and what the government knows and what they've had potentially, you know, been working on for the past, you know, 100 years or so? And that's really the big question is like, are they going to tell us the truth, or are they going to try to push us in one particular direction, which is kind of where, you know, the Cosmic Hoax film, the Dr. Greer film really kind of sort of lays out for you which direction they could go.
Yeah. And it's a lot of it in Dr. Greer's film is things that we've already talked about, that he's already talked about numerous times. Like if you've been following his work for a while or just staying up to date on UFO, you know, information and media, then it's nothing like shocking that you didn't already know. But it kind of is a good spot, I think, for maybe people who are kind of dipping their toes in the water.
Yeah.
It's a good starting place because it really goes over so much, like, especially the intro. It's just like he kind of catches you up on where he comes from really quickly and what all he has done and where things are moving. And then it's focused very much on where things are going to go.
Right. Yeah. So we're going to dive into that in more depth here in a little bit, but I want to start with the UFO report just in general, because that's the big thing we're all waiting for. And everybody online was, tweeting this and that about it, that it was going to reveal that, we have had contact with extraterrestrials, or, maybe we'll finally find out the truth about what they're doing in Area 51 or what happened with Roswell. And to everyone's disappointment, this report literally had very little information in it, and definitely nothing that was groundbreaking by any means. Literally 9 pages. We waited for 6 months for them to create this unclassified report to come out to the public, and it was 9 pages.
What do we expect?
It's true.
Like, come on, we knew they weren't going to just lay it all out there for us.
No, I mean, anybody that thought that,
shit.
No, they're gonna slowly drip it to us.
Yep.
So in this report, I'm gonna go over 5 takeaways from it that are important to note. So again, this is the preliminary report, and part of what the Senate wanted when they asked for this was they want an unclassified report for the public, and then there's a classified portion of it that's going to be only given to the politicians and the people in the government. And maybe eventually we'll see that report. There's actually a guy named John Greenwald. He runs the Black Vault website, which is he does like Freedom of Information Act requests. And he's trying to put in a request to get the rest of the information declassified so that we can see what's in that classified report. Because obviously there's more information. Yeah.
I mean, they only care so much about the Freedom of Information Act. They'll still say fuck you at the end of the day if they really don't want you to know something.
Yeah. Most likely they're going to deny that, I would guess. But who knows? I mean, who really knows what's going to come out? So in the report that they did release, they said that of the 144 cases they listed in the report, only 1 incident was properly identified. So out of the 144 cases of UFO activity, only 1 incident was actually identified. In that particular UAP, which again, the government's using this term UAP versus UFO. The UAP is kind of the new term for UFO now, which is unidentified
aerial phenomenon.
Right. So UFO is kind of like, I think they changed it because like of the, amount of, I don't know, stigma or around UFO.
I think that's probably it too. I mean, maybe they had a more important reason, but yeah, that would be my guess too, is because of Hollywood and UFOs.
Right. If the government's using UFO in their reports, then it's kind of like, can you take it seriously or not?
Maybe. I mean, or there could be other reasons they changed it. You never know.
You never know. So they were able to identify definitively one of these cases, but the other 143 remaining cases were left unidentified. And the report suggested that they fall into one of 5 categories, either airborne clutter, like a balloon.
Clutter. Okay.
So like a weather balloon, which weather balloons definitely could be mistaken for a UFO because they do go up to almost 80,000 feet into the air.
Yes.
But they don't move like a...
But they're saying this is something that is unidentified to them. So they weren't able to identify it as a weather balloon?
Right. So they're just saying it falls into one of these. They've created categories and they're saying the 143 cases fall into one of these categories.
Okay.
So that's just one of the category. Then there's natural atmospheric phenomenons. So that would be like some type of, I don't know, lightning or whatever, some other type of weather phenomena.
Okay.
USG or US Industry Developmental Program, so some other type of government industry program. Foreign adversary systems or vehicles operated by foreign countries such as China and Russia. And then the final category is the other, for things that simply just cannot be explained.
So did they tell us how many are in each category?
Nope.
Yeah, because
they just say that they fall into one of them. So they didn't like break down which fell into which one. But
well, that's a softball way of putting it to people, so that people, someone who doesn't want to believe in aliens, can take that and be like, "See, it's mostly just balloons and stuff from the governments."
Right. Exactly.
And maybe only one of those, or zero. They don't know exactly how many.
No, and I don't even know if they went that far to even. They probably weren't even able to investigate it to a point where they would be able to put it into one of the categories. Most of the times the information you have is not enough to even determine whether or not it falls into a specific category or not. But what was also interesting is it kind of focused on some of the incidents that have been captured from the year 2004 up until March 2021. So what's interesting to me is that in this report, there was no mention of historical UFO events in history, such as Roswell. That was not in there at all. Phoenix Lights, which was the UFOs that were seen over Arizona, Nevada, and the Mexican state of Sonora in March 1997, which was a huge event that tons and tons of people saw. But none of this was included in the report. They only looked at incidents since 2004, which conveniently in 2004 is when that first UFO clip, which we'll show you guys those here in a few, but that the Navy captured, the USS Nimitz carrier group captured off the coast of California. And those were the clips that were declassified and released to the public as these are official UFO, events that we captured on film.
But of course, the things that we have actual legitimate questions about that can't be answered, they're not going to put in. Phoenix Lights are completely unexplained. Of course, we're not going to get jack shit on that. Of course, they're not going to give us anything on Roswell. I mean, of course, this is how they always release documents.
But they're just completely denying the fact that any sort of UFO activity was ever observed or confirmed by the government, even though 110% they have data on these events, because where these places, these UFOs were seen, I mean, there's Air Force bases, there's radar.
But we don't know if they're denying them or just not including them in this report, because this is
could be in the classified.
It is, yeah.
And they're only giving us the most recent stuff that's been declassified already.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably stuff along those, between 2004 and now that we don't know about that aren't being included, is what I would bet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't think they're just being super transparent with us.
No, absolutely not. But what they did confirm is that out of these 144 cases, most of the UAPs were captured by multiple sensors, such as radars, weapon seekers, or automatic weapon launchers, and infrared sensors, rather than just cameras, which wouldn't happen if they were a mirage. So these are 100% objects that were tracked by very advanced military systems and radar and infrared sensors. So we know that this wasn't just like they were just seeing something because a mirage appeared over the ocean or something. And these are actual trackable UAPs that were seen, and we got data on that they just can't explain. So much to the disappointment of all of us, the report did not even include the words extraterrestrial at all. They didn't even put that in there because obviously if they even remotely said there's a possibility some of these objects could be from outer space, that's going to just incite, I don't know, panic or people to really want to look into it further. People know that this is not everything that they have. This is just a very basic version of events, since things were started being declassified, those UFO clips back in 2017. And so they're giving us very, very limited information. But what's interesting is that all of this is kind of setting the search for extraterrestrial life and just the research around UFOs and UAPs into motion, because now NASA is actually going to get involved in the search for UFOs and UAPs and actually like tracking it, which is, to me, is hilarious because if you know anything about UFOs and the history behind it, that NASA's seen UFOs
they recognize
since the beginning of the space program.
But they've always denied that.
Yes.
So this is their kind of way of being like, oh, we're now going to start. But of course they always have been.
So the new NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, who was, put into office by Joe Biden, did an interview with CNN, and he confirmed that the footage that the government released, those UFO videos, were not an optical illusion. But he was very skeptical because obviously, the media outlets love to be like, do you think it's aliens or do you think it's extraterrestrials? And they're like, they're never going to be like, yes. But he didn't deny the possibility that they could be extraterrestrial. He said, they just don't know. And they always allude to the fact that this could be, could even be an enemy or an adversary's technology that we just don't know about. But it's interesting that now NASA's on board with UFOs, UAPs, and they're going to start tracking it, and all of the UFO research is all starting to happen now.
Yeah.
Conveniently, when we now have a Space Force and all these other things. So hence this is why Dr. Greer kind of, puts out this cosmic hoax documentary to kind of play the devil's advocate on, the side of, well, is that really what the government's wanting to do, is just to explore this and try to figure out what this is and, if it's a threat or not. But before we get into that, I want to look at some of these UFO clips again, because we now know a lot more about them since they came out nearly a couple of years ago. And because these pilots that were actually, seeing these firsthand are actually coming out and being interviewed and talking about their experiences. And it's really, really interesting to hear it from them firsthand. Being a pilot, flying a fighter jet for one is just really cool. And it's got to be a really crazy experience in itself. But then to be out there and seeing things that you have no idea what they are.
In the sky,
right?
So trippy.
Or under the water. And then going up into the sky and having no idea what they are, or who's piloting them. And your job is to defend the air. And yet you have these things flying around that no one seems to know what they are. So it's truly a mystery. So the first clip we're going to look at is called the Go Fast UFO clip. And this was captured in January 2015 by an FA-18 fighter jet off the East Coast. I think it was off the East Coast of Florida. This one and then the gimbal clip. So we'll play the Go Fast clip first.
Nickel 61 Tango Project, over.
Oh, got it! Woohoo!
Roger, there's troubleshooting.
Did you box moving target?
602.
No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
That thing is moving quick.
Yeah. So that thing is, and that's why they're freaking out, is because they're like, look at that thing. And it's moving. I mean, some of these things are moving at like thousands of miles per hour.
And they can go much faster than that. Like it's surprising they were able to even keep up with them.
Yeah. To even
shot.
lock on their IR camera onto it and follow it. So then here's the gimbal footage.
Dude, that is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
I think that is one of the most unbelievable clips. And I know that if you've watched our show for a while, you've definitely seen them. I mean, even if you haven't, most people have seen that clip.
It's been all over the news and everything too.
And it's crazy because you can see it so well. It's different than just a little light up dot on the screen. I mean, you can see it moving. You can see the structure of it. And it looks like a classic UFO. Like if a kid were to draw a UFO, it would be that.
It looks like a disc in the way that
with the two tops on either side, and then how it can completely go up and down. And
so they're tracking this from an F-18 fighter jet, which these are some of the fastest, most advanced aircraft in the world. And this thing is flying 120 knots into the wind, not with the wind, into the wind. And at the same time, it's rotating. And if a human being were in a craft like that, chances are, I don't know what that would do to you, but it probably wouldn't be very comfortable, if even possible, for a human to be in that type of environment, going that fast and also rotating
our bodies
in a craft like that.
Our bodies cannot do that. At least not yet. We haven't gotten pilots to training like that.
As far as we know.
I mean, it's pretty clear. We don't have, unless they truly, some government has that technology. I mean, I guess, of course, you can't 100% say that that's a alien piloted craft.
Right. You don't know. I mean, it could be some type of drone. I mean, you heard them say, like, is that a fucking drone, bro? And it could be some type of foreign adversary's drone or something like that, or AI powered craft of some sort like that.
It's just harder. I mean, that's always possible, but it seems unlikely. It's a lot easier to believe with the way that it's moving and everything that is something from out of this world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of us or a lot of people in the military or, high-ranking generals and things like that have always said that United States literally leads the world in its military technology and everything. And
of course they tell us that.
Right,
but yeah,
right.
But I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's well known by many that, we have the most advanced weapon systems in the entire world as far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are military people who are privy to access a lot of those technologies, and they're blown away by these things and just have no clue what they're looking at. They're like,
yeah, their reaction alone tells you a lot.
What's really interesting too is, as we'll see with the next clip, which is my favorite one, which is the famous Tic Tac UFO, because it's shaped like a Tic Tac.
Right.
It's oblong shape, but a little
oblong.
Oblong.
I like that word.
Yeah. But what's interesting about all these clips, they're all captured by the Navy and they're all seen over the ocean. And it's really interesting that so many UFO sightings and ones that are captured, I mean, even looking at like Dr. Greer's footage and a lot of his UFOs and a lot of his CE5 activity he captures is also over the ocean.
Over the ocean, going in the ocean, going up from the ocean. I mean, I'm sure
Seems
a lot
like
of
there's a connection between UFOs or UAPs and the ocean.
Let us know in the comments below if you personally believe that UFOs could be going into the ocean, and that there could be alien life underneath the ocean.
Could be.
It's a real possibility.
It is. I mean, it would make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's the best
place to hide. It makes total sense. Yeah. We barely know what we're doing in the ocean.
We haven't even explored any of it, really.
Yeah.
We don't know what's down there. We can't even really go down to the depths of the ocean because it's so deep.
We don't have the greatest technology for exploring the ocean either. We don't invest much into that.
No, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That we don't.
We're so interesting, Josh.
It is though, because why isn't Jeff Bezos going to the bottom of the ocean? Why are they so worried about going out into space
because he's a rich fuck who is worried that it's going to go to shit here and he wants to get the hell out before
you think
and
that's
like be part of the early.
The ocean
it seems like it. All the rich people are leaving,
but the ocean's like not doing great at all. So I don't think they're like they care enough to go in there when they
That's a
leave.
good point. Yeah. They're just like, screw it. The whole planet's fucked.
That's what it seems like.
We got to go establish our base somewhere else.
It's interesting that on this topic
that Jeffrey Bezos is going to space, but actually somebody's beating him to space. Richard Branson is actually going to be the first guy into space.
That's better than Jeff.
Yeah, which is hilarious. I mean, there's a bunch of memes clowning
Bill
Jeffrey
Gates
Bezos.
is also planning to go. He just came out and was like, I'll be going there.
Elon's going to go. Did you know Elon Musk sold all of his possessions, all of his houses, and he lives in a $50,000 tiny home?
Really? And that's verified?
100%.
Oh yeah,
he lives in a $50,000 tiny home next to the SpaceX facility.
Where does he park all his Teslas?
He has one Tesla, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or I don't know how many, but he lives in he's a billionaire. He's basically the richest guy on the planet other than Bezos. And he's parked his tiny home next to his SpaceX facility. He sold all of his assets off.
So he can just focus on it.
Because he's trying to leave.
God.
Elon's trying to leave too. Everybody, all the rich are going to leave us here on this planet.
It's giving me a lot of existential dread right now.
Because it's like, you guys have all this money, literally could save the planet with a percentage of their money. And yet they're like, screw the planet. Let's build a space shuttle that can get me the hell off of it and live somewhere else.
Well, that worries me that they know things about the future or things that could happen.
Could be. They could be,
Anyway, back to the aliens. My anxiety is getting out of control.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go into an existential crisis right now that the planet is dying and we're being left here to die on it. But anyway, so
this podcast is so fun.
There is hope, people. Don't worry. There is hope.
What is our hope? You?
Well,
maybe we need to make the child to save the world.
Oh, God.
Yeah, maybe one of our children will be the one that saves us all. You never know. But anyways, back to the Fleur Tic Tac UFO. So before we show the clip, I want to give you some background information on it because the footage that they captured is really after a lot of the excitement happens. So the Tic Tac UFO was in November 2004, and a pilot by the name of David Fravor, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he was flying a fighter jet, a Super Hornet, with the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group when they were just out there, normal day. They do this all the time. They go out like 60 miles off the coast of San Diego or 100 miles off the coast, and they do air defense training where basically it's like 2 versus 2. So there's 2 good guys versus 2 bad guys, and they fly around in the air, and they do training where they practice having basically aerial combat with other adversaries and flying in these specific formations. So they're out there doing this. And then the aircraft carrier is like, hey guys, there's something out there. Don't know what it is. Go check it out. Like, abandon your training. It's time to go really check out this unknown, unidentified object that's out there on radar. So they fly towards this thing, and they get right to the point where on radar it is supposed to be. This object's supposed to be right there. And they're flying around. They're like, hey guys, we don't see anything up here. There's nothing out here. And then that's when they look down into the ocean, and they see this glowing white tic-tac shaped USO at that point under the water, kind of dancing around. The way he described it was like a ping pong ball bouncing off of the walls. So this thing's just like erratically like moving around below him, and they're just like, and this thing's 40 feet.
Holy shit.
40 feet long, kind of oval in shape, literally a white tic-tac, glowing white tic-tac flying around. And so they're like, what the hell is that? And so they start circling around trying to get a better look at it. And David decides, I'm gonna go fly down low. Like, these guys fly like just above the surface of the water. That's how
Skim it.
how good they are. And so he goes down, and as he's going down, this thing shoots up, all the way up to their altitude, just like out of the water up into the air. And all of a sudden this thing is at their altitude, up high up in the air. And it's just hovering there. So they're like, oh my God, and freaking out and starting to circle around, radioing back to like, what is this thing? What is this thing?
Holy fuck.
And then as they try to get close enough to it, this thing just shoots off, gone in an instant. They're like, it just vanished in plain sight. And then it pops up on radar again. In a minute, it went 60 miles.
Yep. And that makes so much sense, because a lot of the footage we see, they're moving so fucking fast. Right. Like that famous footage in the valley. I don't know if we're going to show that today, but that those dudes just caught on their drone.
Oh, yeah.
Just
that
how quickly it moved. I mean, we saw it moved over miles in seconds.
So when you calculate that out, this tic-tac object was flying at 3,700 miles per hour.
Holy shit.
Which, like, your biggest airliners fly at 700 miles an hour. So we're talking 3,700 miles per hour is how fast.
So there's no fucking way.
There's no way a human is in that thing without some type of technology that we don't know about. There's just no way.
It's AI or it's extraterrestrial, 100%. There's just no fucking way.
It seems that way.
It defies the laws of everything we know.
Yeah. So what was crazy though is that they realize, so they're like, it's gone. They fly back to what's called a cap point, which is where they kind of like meet back up. And when they fly back to this point, which was only known by the pilots and their crew on the ship, and guess what's fucking at their cap point? This object's back.
Are you fucking
So
kidding me?
at that point, they're like, holy shit, this thing is totally intelligent. It knew exactly where we were. It was flying alongside us, and it knew exactly where we were going to meet up, and basically met us there. Without how would it know that? This thing is intelligent. That's what they said. They're like, it knew we were there. It was watching us. It was literally moving with us. And then when it met us up at the cap point, it just like freaked us all out. We're like, oh my God.
Did it stay there? Did it just like hover for a bit?
It just was like hovering there, and then like
eventually it left.
It took off, but then
probably to let them know.
Yeah. Well, then they flew back to the carrier, and then another pilot hopped in his Hornet. He's like, I'm going to go chase that thing. I'm going to go after it. So another pilot takes off, and this is where that footage comes from, because they didn't have like their cameras rolling on it. So this other pilot flies out there, and he captures the Tic Tac UFO on his FLIR camera. So here's that footage.
Okay.
So again, this is the Super Hornet's FLIR camera, and there it is right there. It's just sitting up there in the sky, just hovering. But it also moves at 3,700 miles per hour.
Just like observing them.
Yeah, just chilling. Thing's 40 feet long.
Damn.
Yeah.
It looks so tiny.
I know it looks tiny in this camera, but it's actually huge.
You can tell it's like flying.
And then it notices that there's a plane coming at him, and it starts to move around. Yeah, it's like moving out. See how it's moving though? It's just like stops. It can like move, stop, move.
It's like nothing we've ever seen. Yeah.
So they said there's no propulsion system. There was no smoke coming from it. There's no sign of any sort of technology that we would know about at all.
Yeah. Because it's out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's nuts.
See, then it's just gone like that. Yep. It's like
so fast.
I mean, it looks kind of slow on that, but like
there's no like startup time. It's just like it moves as
that's a fire plane flying at hundreds of miles per hour, and this thing's just gone.
Ha!
That's the tic tac.
We really are like a bunch of barbarians to them. Barbarians.
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 Oh my God.
I know. Absolutely crazy though. I love that footage.
Yeah.
But I have some other cool clips too that we haven't shown on the show before. But before we show those, we're going to take a quick ad break and we'll be right back. When Simply Safe Home Security's founders, Chad and Eleanor Lawrence, designed their first security system in their kitchen, they did it for a very personal reason, because their friends had just had their home broken into and they were struggling to find a security system that was simple to set up and would make them feel safe again. Well, that's where Simply Safe started, and why it's called Simply Safe in the first place is because it really is that simple to get top of the line security for your home, your apartment, your office, or wherever you may need it. I love Simply Safe so much that I actually got out of my contract with the other big security company that's out there and switched to them, and I'll never go back because it is so simple. The technology is top notch. The cameras themselves are high quality, no fuzzy images, and it really is just that easy to use. I really love it. And they've been making people feel safe for over 15 years. Simply Safe's passion to protect people not only drives every engineering detail in its products, but it motivates every interaction with its customers. And the thing is, Simply Safe just makes it so easy. It takes about 2 minutes to customize a system. On their website at simplysafe.com/milehigher, Simply Safe has highly trained security experts ready whenever you need them, whether that's during a fire, a burglary, a medical emergency, or even just when you're setting up the system. They're always there for you, and they have your back in order to keep you safe and make sure you feel safe all the time. So to learn more about Simply Safe and how they can help protect you and your family, visit simplysafe.com/milehigher today to customize your system and get a free security camera. You literally get a free security camera, which is a huge bonus. You also get a 60-day risk-free trial, so there's nothing to lose. Why not give them a try today at simplysafe.com/milehigher?
So all of us here in the Mile High crew love HelloFresh because it makes our lives so much easier. We're all doing so many different things, and sometimes we have recordings late into the evenings. And knowing you have a HelloFresh meal in the fridge at the end of the day is such a relief. With HelloFresh, you get fresh, pre-measured ingredients delivered right to your door. So you can skip the trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. We love it because HelloFresh just cuts out the stressful meal planning step. We don't have to figure out what we're going to make and then figure out what we need and then go to the grocery store and get exactly what we need. And then we always get too much of what we think we need, so we end up throwing things out. And there's no waste with HelloFresh, which we love. And with a lot of their meals, you can get dinner on the table in about just 30 minutes or less, which is really cool. And you can try their quick and easy meals, which are 15 to 20 minute dinners, breakfast on the go, and more options for your busy lifestyle. And there's something for everyone to enjoy, with recipes designed and tested by professional chefs and nutritional experts to ensure deliciousness and simplicity. And HelloFresh is a better value. It's 28% cheaper than shopping at your local grocery store and 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal without sacrificing the quality. So check it out at HelloFresh.com/milehigher14. And if you use the code milehigher14, you get up to 14 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/milehigher14 and use the code milehigher14 for up to 14 free meals plus free shipping.
Did you know cats are carnivores that need lots of meat? I didn't know leading cat food brands are often filled with fillers, grains, and very little protein. That's why I switched to Cat Person cat food. It's everything my cat needs to stay healthy and happy. High quality, high protein meals delivered right to my door. And they'll do the same for you. And if you order your starter box today, I've arranged for Cat Person to provide an exclusive offer of nearly 50% off just for my listeners. Cat Person is a protein packed 50% more than industry standards and only uses wholesome ingredients. The food is grain-free and low carb, so there's no room for the unnecessary fillers, all that nasty stuff you find in many of the other brands out there that actually cause digestive problems. Cat Person delivers delicious, nutritious, and high-quality cat food right to your door, and you'll never run out or have to settle for what the store has. Meal plans are fully customizable for your cat and perfect for cats of all ages. There are 16 easy-to-serve wet foods and 3 different dry foods, so you'll be sure to find the combinations your cat loves. My cats are all about the savory shreds with a little bit of gravy in there. They absolutely love that stuff. So much so that they beg for it at night, every single night around the same time. They come and stare me down until I give them that delicious Cat Person shreds of chicken. So good. And they always ship for free with the meal plan. Meal plans are fully customizable for your cat and perfect for cats of all ages. There are 16 easy to serve wet foods and 3 different dry foods. So be sure to find the combinations your cat will love. I have 3 kitties. All 3 of them are very picky eaters, but they absolutely love Cat Person's tuna shreds and broth. There's something about the little chunks and then the delicious broth that they just lap up. I mean, they literally beg for it at the same time every single night and cry until I give it to them. They absolutely love it. And Cat Person always ships for free with the meal plan, and you won't believe all that's included in your starter box. Actually, listen to this. 10 cups of wet food, 1 2-pound bag of dry food, plus an entire set of serving spoons, silicone lids, and a scooper. Wow, what a deal. And Cat Person offers a 30-day money-back guarantee on your custom plan, and if your cat doesn't love Cat Person, there's no questions asked. What a great guarantee. My cats have absolutely loved it. If your cat likes wet food, the shreds and broth, tuna, chicken, absolutely delicious. They really, really love it. And they even love the dry food too. After switching them to Cat Person, I've just noticed that my cats are happier. They seem to be staying full longer, which is good, and they're not throwing up as much. So clearly something's working. Their digestion's getting improved. I mean, all around, it's good stuff. So you and your cat are going to love Cat Person as much as we do. Go to catperson.com/milehigher and use code milehigher to save nearly 50% off on your starter box with free shipping. That's catperson.com/milehigher and use code milehigher to get nearly 50% off your starter box with free shipping. Again, that's catperson.com/milehigher. Use code milehigher today.
All right, time for more clips.
Yes, time for more clips. The next clip is of a UFO swarming a Navy warship. And this clip was actually sort of leaked by Jeremy Corbell. He is a documentary filmmaker who's now had a bunch of like military officials and things like that starting to leak UFO footage to him that he's now leaking. And this clip is actually pretty cool.
For 2 long hours on the night of July 15, 2019, the crew of the USS Omaha detected on multiple sensor systems unknown objects that surrounded the ship as it moved through ocean waters west of San Diego. One of the objects, a self-illuminated sphere at least 6 feet in diameter, flew alongside the Omaha for an extended period and was observed through a thermal sensor in the ship's combat center. Filmmaker Jeremy Corbell released the Navy video weeks ago and says similar events were reported by 8 other Navy ships in the same area over 3 days.
Mark bearing and range.
There was numerous warships that are having similar it appears to be coordinated interaction, and this whole series was within this kind of, I'd say, circumference of 100 miles, and there was up to 50 to 100 contacts.
So basically orbs. Swarming Navy warships,
Which
similar area too.
That's just the most common UFO people seem to see is orbs, unexplained orbs.
Interesting that they're swarming the warships. Why? To me, it's like either something spying, some type of adversary, which is kind of what the government's leading on, that these could be some type of technology that one of our adversaries has that's watching our warships and watching our Navy and things like that. Or this is something else entirely that is just unexplained. I mean, the fact that it drops down into the water, pops out of the water.
Well, I think with how many UFO sightings there's been around any type of testing sites for nuclear, any type of weaponry, there's been actually interference in some reports. I think it's pretty clear that they're worried about us blowing ourselves up. So I think they like to keep an eye on what we're doing when it comes to the military. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one idea for sure.
But that's just my own theory, right?
Yeah. What do you know?
It helps me kind of sleep at night though, because I'm like, they're
watching
looking
out for us.
They're
dumbasses.
like guardian angels.
Maybe.
I don't know about that.
Maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
That's
I'm
a
not
very
in that. I'm
positive
not
way to
that
look at it.
like delusional, but I think there might be some species of aliens out there that, you know, are concerned about the future of humanity and want to help us. But again, what the fuck do I know?
Do you think that those aliens though see when you say the word humanity, like are we included in their humanity, or like they're their own, like they have their own humanity and we're just like out foreign figures?
In my own personal beliefs, I believe they are intelligent enough to understand energy and how it flows throughout the entire universe, and that all creatures that are good deserve.
That's a very
What does
interesting
good mean though?
I think kind of
Right, that's true.
Right.
Maybe we are
how do you
bad.
determine
Maybe we
good?
are shit.
That's
But
what I'm saying.
I think the majority of humanity has good hearts and good intentions and wants to see good. And I think they know, and I don't think they take life for granted as much, possibly, that they would want. I don't think all species out there just are like, oh, we're better. I think there's evolved species that see other ones of us, I guess we're aliens too, as worthy of being alive. And I don't know. I guess I just fucking hope so. Hopefully they don't just obliviate us.
Well, maybe
That's just
they're
like what I tell myself.
Obliterate us?
What if we don't matter at all?
Obliviate?
Dude, I don't know what I say half the time. Dyslexia is a wild thing.
Yes, I hope they don't obliterate us.
Well,
But I do think, I'm not like in denial. I feel like there's probably, if there are good species out there, there's also got to be evil ones that probably would want to obliterate
where I
us.
think is like, if there's good, there has to be bad, because that's how life works.
That's
There
how
has
the
to be
universe
balance.
works. I totally agree with
Yin
that.
and yang, I think, is very
But
real.
I think if we didn't also have the good part of things, if there weren't good species, that the bad ones would have already like taken over our asses by now. I think there's like interplanetary conflict over our little Earth.
My guess is that like 'cause
Maybe.
we have so many issues just on our planet with fighting and not getting along. So I would imagine that even if they're more advanced, I would assume there's still some type of conflict that they experience maybe within their own kind.
Yes. Oh, of course.
And like maybe part of them is like, you know, some of the aliens were like, oh, we really want to help move humanity forward and like help others, while others, you know, the other side could be like, no, we're trying to like just stay powerful and like
Use
fuck
their
these like humans
resources.
or whatever. Like they consider us and yeah.
Enslave them one day.
Yeah, maybe.
That's what I think. I don't think we're significant at all. I don't think they care about us at all.
I know. I was
think
going to say
about
maybe that was a bit of a narcissistic statement.
I think
for me
it's
to be
about
like,
the-
they all care about America.
No, I think it's about the.
Just kidding. About the world, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think it's more about
Humanity.
the planet, and I think depending on your version of events and what, you know, if there are intelligent beings piloting these craft, that perhaps they're more concerned about the planet and making sure that we don't absolutely decimate it into, you know, another Mars.
It's true. There could be there is a long history to the Earth, and there could be at one time where it was inhabited by aliens. Maybe they just want to protect the Earth.
Right. And yeah, there's some more theories kind of going down that path of thinking.
Yeah.
That I want to present to. But I want to watch this other UFO clip, because this is a new one
Back to the
that I
clips.
found. So the next clip comes out of Puerto Rico, actually, the airport there in Aguadilla. And this was captured by a pilot working for the Department of Homeland Security when he captured this UAP. So yeah, this pilot is tracking this UFO that you see flying through the air very quickly. See how fast it's moving? It's having difficulty tracking it.
When was this taken?
This was in 2013, April 2013.
Why don't we have better footage, like cameras? Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, look how quick it's moving.
Oh my God. Holy hell.
Watch
It
what
looks
this thing
like a
does, though.
balloon was like let go. Like it's flying.
It's moving too quick, though, for a balloon to be.
No, I'm not saying it is a balloon, just the way it's like gliding. It doesn't seem like something we make.
It looks like sped up footage. Wow.
Because it's like
It's covering
it's
so
like
much
leaning
land.
back
Yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
It's just like it's like gliding too easily to be something that's
Yeah, it looks kind of
our world.
haphazard, like it's moving all around.
Right.
Almost looks like if it was a plane that it would crash moving around that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Watch what this thing does, though. It's pretty cool. So it's just flying through there. This is by the airport too, mind you. This thing's just flying around the airport. I think, yeah, it's coming up here. Kind of slows down a little bit. I think that's like the airport right there. Yeah. Flying across. So your thoughts are like maybe some type of drone, somebody's just flying a drone or something like that, but it looks bigger than a drone would be to
it's
be
way bigger
captured on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. It almost like disappeared for a second.
So they said that this thing was traveling about 120 miles per hour in the air, which is not super fast, but definitely fast.
It's going through clouds. I'm assuming that's what all those are.
And then that is water.
I think those are trees, actually.
No, this is like waves in the ocean.
Well, that is. But
yeah.
There was trees.
So watch this thing. Boop. Under the water. Traveling 90 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
Nobody's drone does that.
What the fuck? Yeah, right. Are you kidding me? That's insane.
And again, they researched this and there's absolutely no explanation for
It's
it.
not making any like
It's gone now.
splash.
No. That's what's crazy.
It probably can sense that it was being tracked too. So.
Yeah. Then it splits into two.
What the fuck?
Now there's two of them.
Wow, that's unbelievable footage.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that was in 2013 that they saw this.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Gone.
Thing splits into two.
That's unbelievable.
And this was witnessed by, the actual tower at the airport. A bunch of people saw this. And this was recorded on a thermal imaging system, but they have no idea where it came from, what it is, or where it went.
I wish it was also recorded on like regular film or like video.
Well, I think it would be very hard to do that. That's why they use these highly advanced cameras, and because it's moving so quickly that it's hard to like track it on just like somebody's camcorder,
Yeah, you can't like whip out your iPhone.
Get your your GoPro.
No, I'm not saying like that, but like if you were in the airport or like if you were in the plane, could you call down to the airport and be like, guys, there's something flying around the airport? I don't know. I just feel like it sucks that we never have like actual good quality.
Well, there is. That's
videos.
The thing.
There is.
I
would
but
like to see it.
We don't have it. That's
Okay.
That's the thing is.
Of course, they're going to keep the best stuff hidden where you can see the most.
Exactly. Well, there is high definition footage of a lot of these things. It's just not been declassified yet. So switching gears to Lou Elizondo's kind of become, I guess, the UFO guy for the government. I mean, he's been making the rounds on all the public networks, but he did this interview with a very small creator on YouTube where he was being asked some questions that viewers had in regards to UFOs, UFO pictures and evidence, which will actually, he'll explain that very question you guys just had of why isn't there better footage. So let's watch some of these clips. It's really interesting. So here's him talking about UFO characteristics.
But first, I'm going to get to a question that I had, which is there a correlation between any of the characteristics of these UAPs, UFOs, and some other characteristic? For example, let's say that the tic-tac shaped ones are more violent or the pyramidal shaped ones are faster. Is there a classification of them, and do they have some other characteristic associated with them?
So the characterizations that we have seen to date really is a result of size, believe it or not. So, and this is by no means comprehensive, but what we tend to see are the smaller vehicles tend to be think of a sports car, are your saucer shaped vehicles. Whereas the larger vehicles, let's say a school bus size, is that of a cylindrical object, or roughly that of a tic tac, or even sometimes described as a telephone pole. And then in shape, so cylindrical. And then the tend to be the large ones, really large ones, tend to be not always, but almost exclusively either triangular shape or boomerang shape. Now there are some anecdotal, if you will, reports of large saucers as well, and some shapes looking like a dumbbell. But the three primary categories tend to be that we saw in ATIP were disc shape, and then you have the longer cylindrical shape, and then finally a large triangular shape.
vehicle. The triangle vehicles are often described as flying very close to the ground.
So that was just like a good explanation of the fact that there's so many different types of shapes, and the characteristics associated with the shapes are different in how they fly, where they fly, how fast they go. So I thought that was really interesting. But here's Lou commenting on UFO pictures and evidence.
Are there videos, pictures that you've seen that are not so grainy, not so far away, but instead up close, exact, let's say, such that someone who is on the fence about this issue would no longer be on the fence?
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that with Congress. I mean, there's videos and photographs and reporting that I've been privy to that are extremely compelling. I've said for the record that the 3 videos that have come out, as interesting as they are, they're probably the least compelling of the ones that we had. And this is why I'm so concerned about now the recent revelations that the Pentagon has deleted or destroyed my emails and my files, because there were documents in a very comprehensive shared folder that we had that was pretty incredible. I mean, there was some very high definition, high fidelity videos in there that when you looked at it, you realize, hey, that's not one of our aircraft.
So again, Lou was the one who led the Pentagon's UFO research program, AATIP, for years, and he's saying that those clips that we just showed you, the gimbal, the go fast, and the FLIR UFO clips, are actually like some of the worst that they've just put out to the public, because they're slow rolling it. But
they're giving us the bullshit first, of course.
But he's literally said, I've seen shit that is like would completely just force you to change your mind about UFOs and what they are.
Oh, I completely believe it. If we're just getting stuff now, like slowly, they leak stuff years and years after they get it too.
Mm-hmm. But he also said that they deleted his emails and deleted like his share folder that had a lot of this evidence in it. And he actually seemed kind of pissed about that. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I would be too.
Of course he did. Because now he's like kind of out. He's kind of like a whistleblower now in a lot of ways. Like he's kind of like telling he's doing interviews with anybody, and he's telling this information. And so now the government's kind of like distancing themselves from him, even though he was a part of it for a long time.
Because they want to control the narrative. They don't want any old person releasing it.
So this last clip of Lou I thought was really interesting, because he basically gets asked, based on what you know and you've seen, about extraterrestrial beings and UFOs and stuff, do you think, how do you think it'll affect humanity when we know the truth?
Oh yeah, I've seen this clip.
The Lonesome Space Cowboy, remember that last question that you couldn't get to, which was, if the general public knew or saw what you saw, what would the next week look like? How would the public react?
Somber. I think there would be this big exhale for about a day, and then this turning inward and trying to reflect on what this means to us and our species and ourselves. I think
somber. Sorry, like a sigh of relief.
Somber meaning serious, not like Hollywood portrays people partying in the streets and silliness like that. I think you would have some people perhaps turning to religion more so. You might have some people turning away from religion. I think you're going to have, at that point, the philosophical and theological questions will be raised, and people will have some serious soul searching to do, no pun intended. And I don't think that's bad, by the way. I think a lot of folks that have spent their times in this community being charlatans will have been exposed, and they will be probably unemployed and probably have to change their names, because, the rest of society will look at them in an unfavorable light. I think there are some unsung heroes that will probably come to light, and the world will appreciate their contributions to this topic. I think the scientific community and academic communities, no, I can't give those names.
I know what I was going to say is names that have been announced before when you say the unsung heroes, or new names.
Names haven't been announced before.
Okay.
I think the scientific and academic community is going to have to take a real hard look at itself and see why it repeated the same mistakes it did when Galileo first proposed that the Earth was not the center of the solar system. Hubris is a big part of that. And then I think, maybe we start the international conversation. Say, okay, we realize that there's some things out there that are probably well beyond our petty discrepancies we have with each other. Maybe we really need to start working together on this. Realize that we are really a global family. Doesn't matter where you're from, or it doesn't matter what your religion is, or your culture, or your color, or anything else. We are all brothers and sisters on this tiny little rock called Earth. You know, this pale blue dot that's hurtling through space.
It may unify us.
Well, I would certainly hope so.
So that's like pretty profound stuff coming from him, considering what he knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he basically said it without saying it, that there is something else. There's some other intelligent presence out there, whether it's from another world, another place in space, or something, another dimension. I mean, there's lots of theories, but
do you agree with how he said people would react?
Yeah, honestly, I think that it's going to kind of flip everybody upside down for a while, and they're going to have to really, I mean, if we do confirm that there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe and they're here, they're visiting us, or there's some other aspect, you know, something else multi-dimensional that's happening, and you know, it is going to kind of flip a lot of people's theological ideas and
I definitely
religious
agree with
points
that.
of view.
I think it was interesting. He said some people will go to religion, some will back away from it. That's probably true.
Pretty
I think,
accurate.
I mean, he definitely makes you feel less anxious about the idea. Personally, I think with the way people are, that maybe the majority will act the way he described, but I think there'll be a large chunk of people that just freak out. And I think there will be looting.
It's going to be serious.
There will be people freaking out, panicking, doing crazy shit.
That's why I think he said people will turn towards religion, because he said somber too, and that indicates that maybe whatever this thing isn't necessarily all good either. And if we find out the truth about it, then it might freak people out to the point where they're so fearful of what could happen next that they're like, I need to believe in some type of higher power to continue living.
Well, I guess it's all about how it goes down, because if they just land one day, or there's some type of fake alien invasion, then people are going to freak the fuck out. And it won't be as much philosophical, I think, as it'll be about survival and, you know, and people just questioning everything. I think, especially for people who haven't let their minds wander much, it's going to be totally shocking.
Yeah, it's going to completely rip your world apart and all your beliefs about everything, you know, especially if you believe, you know, a lot of the religious texts out there and their version of events of history and everything. I think it's going to just change everything all at once, which will be overwhelming for a lot of people, I think.
So let's get into talking about Dr. Greer and his newest documentary, which came out recently. And what's cool about this one is it's actually free. It's on YouTube, and he gave a Creative Commons license for it. So we can actually upload it to our channel if that's something you guys would be interested in, but you can also just hop over to his channel and watch it there. Pretty interesting stuff though.
Yeah. And it's interesting that he released it, I mean, pretty much right after this UFO report came out from the government. And it's really like a rebuttal to everything that the government is saying. Because I mean, as we just saw with Lou, I mean, a lot of people in the government are alluding to the fact that whatever this presence is not necessarily a good one, and perhaps could be a threat to humans here on Earth, and therefore we need to be ready to counter any sort of attack coming from whatever this thing is. We don't know. We haven't been able to identify what it is yet. Hence the Space Force being created. And so, I mean, Dr. Greer, we've talked about him a lot, but his sort of overarching message has always been that there is an ET presence here. They've been visiting us for a very long time, but that all of the ETs that are here and who have been observing us over history are peaceful, and they're not here to incite violence or panic or do anything malicious, that in fact they're here to help us transcend and, go, get ourselves to the next level of consciousness and evolution and really move into a better world where this technology is sort of unleashed to the public and people have access to it, and
we can raise our consciousness and
create a better world.
Yeah. And so Dr. Greer always kind of makes you gives you like that sense of hope, versus other people out there are a lot more gloom and doom about it. But he's gotten a lot of shit for that, being like, how do you really know everything is good at the end of the day? And he talks a lot about in this new one, just about things that aren't true within the UFO community that are being spread. I wanted to bring up the ones that he specifically went over. These are the things that are falses to Dr. Greer. Falsehoods, I should say. Falses. The first one that he brings up is ETs are demons. Have you heard much about that?
Yeah, well, to give you some backstory on that, in order to understand that statement, you have to go back and look at Tom DeLonge. Because this is kind of where this information comes from, is Tom DeLonge and his group of people.
And we have plenty of other websites, podcasts on that topic as well, and just how different they are in the community.
Well, on that note, this is really interesting. Let me just read this statement from Tom DeLonge, because it's really interesting to hear this point of view on the other side before you go into all of Dr. Greer's points. So Tom DeLonge, he did an interview back in 2016 with reporter George Knapp. And Tom DeLonge, he created To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science or whatever. And he's got all of these Lockheed Martin Skunk Works engineers. He's got Department of Defense officials. He's basically got all of the Pentagon, all of the defense agencies and intelligence agencies officials working for him. So in this interview, Tom DeLonge's quoted as saying that a lot of these people that he's had secret meetings with have told him really interesting information. The exact term that's used by his government's contacts for what we're saying aliens is the others. They call them the others. And the way that it was explained to Tom is that they are gods with a little g.
With a little g?
Little g.
What is that? Oh, gods with a... Oh, I get it.
Gods with a little g. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he went on to say that the entire UFO phenomenon is about multiple gods that fight amongst themselves and by design factionalize mankind into different religions to step back and let us fight each other because it has other things it wants to accomplish. And we don't notice them, the others, because we're too involved in fighting each other. Our government knows that, and it knows that the others are instigating wars among mankind.
That's an interesting thought.
Right? And then he goes on to say that if you look at the stories of gods coming down to earth and performing various feats, it's all true. The others, by design or maybe by accident, happen to crash very advanced pieces of technology in the country's borders so they can make better weapons to fight bigger wars. Almost like they planted it there for us to find and for us to back engineer in order to use against each other.
Damn.
And we're not the only ones that have had a crash.
So Dr. Greer would disagree with this.
Absolutely. He absolutely disagrees with this, because this insinuates that the others or the aliens are in fact trying to instigate violence and
demonic
war. Right. Exactly to his point.
What do you think?
I personally just can't wrap my head around the fact that every other life form in this universe is going to be a positive life form that's going to be peaceful, that's not going to want to...
Seems kind of juvenile to think that way.
I mean, in a perfect world, maybe that exists, but we all know that that's just not... It's not possible. It doesn't exist. I mean, we know that there is... The circle of life includes death in it. And the universe itself is in this cycle of life and death.
And a balance of good and evil.
There's negative, there's positive and negative for a reason, all the way down to the atomic level. So to me, it seems that no matter where you are in the universe, there's always going to be light, there's always going to be darkness, there's always going to be positive entities, and there's going to be negative entities. So that's my biggest disagreement with Dr. Greer's way of thinking, is that every single other being out there is going to have our best interests in mind.
Yeah, that does seem...
But from his experience, because he's claimed to actually communicate with some of these beings, he knows the real message, and the real message is that they're here.
But it's like he doesn't know if he's communicating with every type of being out there, you know?
Yeah. So
if he even is.
right.
So his other falsehood that he brings up is that it's all interdimensional, not extraterrestrial. He agrees that that's a falsehood.
Which, yeah, I mean, I think you could argue that we just don't know. We don't know if they're interdimensional or
well,
extraterrestrial.
he's saying he knows.
Right. And that's the thing.
It's
and that's
not
why people
interdimensional.
that's why people are very, skeptical
And
of
I
him.
get it. I mean, it's hard to really believe anyone who claims to know all the answers.
Right.
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 The next one is we don't have man-made UFOs, which I think most people would agree with that one.
Yeah.
We obviously do have some man-made,
right.
Whether or not they work super
according
well.
to Tom, they literally crashed them here for us to find and for us to back engineer them. And I mean, if you know anything about UFO history, you know about Roswell. It all goes back to Roswell, at least here in the U.S. And then Bob Lazar, the fact that he said I was working on flying saucers, I think it's pretty obvious that some of the craft that we're seeing could potentially be man-made craft.
The last one is aliens are abducting people. And I want to know what you think about that one, Josh, because I know that you believe aliens have been abducting people, possibly. Not that you believe in every UFO story, but you believe in the possibility.
Yeah. And that's another one where I tend to disagree to some extent because there's been many people that have experienced some type of alien abduction at some point and either just don't remember it or they remember it through hypnotherapy is usually how you retrieve those types of memories.
But they obviously they don't really have evidence, so there's no way to prove.
Yeah, and I don't think he can really
again.
prove that it's not aliens either. I think he's just going based on.
Didn't
the fact
he
that,
think he was abducted?
Not abducted, but he was basically touched by a being when he was very young.
That sounds
when he
weird,
met with
yeah.
one. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So it's
I
like
thought he said he was. I could have sworn he talked about.
I don't think he
being
was ever like
abducted.
abducted into a ship or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, I guess if that's one of his.
But I believe
things he believes is fake.
some type of craft or being materialized and he had an interaction with it. But
just kidding. There's one last one. Aliens are a threat, therefore we need to build weapons in space. He thinks that is false.
See, and
what do you think about that? Do we need to build weapons in space? Do you think the Space Force is a good idea? It seems a little crazy to everyone right now, but in 20 years, are we going to definitely need something like that?
I think that's where it comes back to whether or not you believe that we can achieve this sort of universal peace here on Earth and this nirvana, this highly advanced society where everybody gets along and everybody is, one family, one species, and we're all living in this global planet together. I think is a lofty goal in the long run, because I just don't know I don't know if we can evolve to a point where that would ever be even possible. I think the amount of evolution that has to happen to get to that point is so far into the future. I mean, talk about the Kardashev scale. It's like, a ways up there that I don't know if that's realistically achievable. But I think it's kind of a good idea. I think why, think about other intelligent, if the universe is so vast and it has all this life out there, chances are there's ships flying around in space. Yeah. There's craft maneuvering.
But aren't they going to be a million times better than us and whatever we have to possibly bring up there?
Right. I think, and that's where I'm like, I think this idea that it's an alien threat is not necessarily what the government is saying. I think they're more moving towards the idea that our adversaries, China, Russia, are going to have weapons in space. Therefore, it comes back to the space race. It comes back to the nuclear arms race. It's always been a race between nations to have the technology and have the weapons.
Yeah,
so this is just the next step in the arms race. And I don't think there's any way we can get around that. I think if we don't do that, that could mean, what happens if an adversary builds a space weapon and we don't? And then all of a sudden they're able to aim it at us and they say we could obliterate the entire United States. They probably
still will, because their shit's going to be thousands of years more advanced.
Well, I'm not
than
talking
ours.
about aliens. I'm talking about I'm talking about another country here on Earth, humans.
Well, see, that's where I get real dicey about that. Is I don't know if we should be.
I don't think it's aliens.
Is it going to happen? Probably, but
I don't think there's necessarily going to be an alien threat. And his idea is that based on history, the governments are back engineering this technology, and that they're going to make it look like there's some extraterrestrial threat that's going to attack us. And therefore, that's why we need to build the Space Force. That's why we need to build weapons into spaces in order to prevent an alien attack. Which, yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways. But according to him, the aliens are not here to hurt us. They're here to make peace with us and help us evolve. So
maybe
it's a false flag. You know, it's this false narrative, the cosmic hoax that the government's going to try to play on us, just like some of the other false flag events in history. And you know, that's their excuse to get the military industrial complex armed back up and back to work. So
how do you control how many people are on this planet now? 7 billion? Are we
almost 8 billion? Yeah.
You know, how do you control people without fear? We have to be all universally afraid of one thing. And what's that one thing going to be? An invasion. So that whole theory and what Dr. Greer presents sounds very plausible.
It's very conspiratorial, though, if you think about it, because you're looking at because like he plays this clip in the film of Ronald Reagan where he's like he's at the UN and he's talking and he's saying, you know, is it going to take some, you know, foreign, you know, a threat from outer space to bring the world together? And
I think maybe it would. And other people have said that too. Other politicians that have been interviewed in the past, that would be the one thing that brings us all together. Almost like they know that will be the one thing that brings us all together.
Right. And I think it kind of like, without saying it, I think he's kind of alluding to the whole like New World Order conspiracy where they're trying to create like a global government over the entire planet to completely control every single human being on the planet.
Well,
and this is how they're going to do it.
Scale, that's like what you have to do to get to the step one.
That's my thing is like, I'm like, because it all depends on how evil you think the government is and whatever, you know, it's
which I think there is a lot of evil. There's plenty to be worried about.
There's plenty to be worried about, but it's also like in order for us to advance as a civilization, we need to advance. But he's saying we need to do it not with weapons and arms, but do it with peaceful self-reflection and consciousness raising.
Is the government going to do that? Probably not. But anyway, we're going to take a quick ad break and then we will be right back.
We got a couple more theories. Yep.
Yeah, go through a few more theories. So I know I have said this so many times, but the only bras that I will wear these days are Third Love bras. I truly mean that. They're the only bras that I get that are comfortable and fit me correctly and also look good. I'm wearing one right now, one that I've had for at least 2 years and she's still hanging on. It's nice to treat yourself once in a while, you know, give yourself some TLC. Third Love Comfort. Third Love knows the science behind top to bottom comfort without sacrificing style. From perfectly fitted bras and underwear to quality sleepwear. Putting on your essentials can feel like you're indulging yourself every day. For me, my favorite way to give myself my me time is taking a really nice bath, relaxing with some bath salts, and then getting out into a nice warm towel and then putting on something comfortable, and especially loungewear. I am the queen of loungewear as a triple Venus. Third Love is your go-to destination for comfortable and quality everyday essentials. Get the level of fit and comfort you desire with Third Love bras, underwear, sleep, and loungewear, and it is all so comfortable. You can find your new favorite everyday essentials from their all-new feather lace collection to their #1 rated 24/7 classic t-shirt bra, which is one of my favorites. Don't feel like getting dressed in the morning? Now you don't have to. Meet Third Love lounge and sleepwear. From lazy Sundays on the couch to weekend outings, or maybe you just do that every day of the week. Their loungewear is designed with premium cotton fabrics available in drapey easy fits from sizes extra small to 3X. And Third Love stands behind their products, so if you don't love them, exchanges and returns are free. And Third Love's team of expert stylists are available via chat and email to answer all of your questions. And we love Third Love because they give back. They have donated over $40 million in gently used or returned bras to women in need, supporting charities in their local San Francisco Bay Area and across the United States. You deserve some TLC. That's Third Love Comfort. Go to thirdlove.com/milehigher now to get 20% off your first purchase. That's thirdlove.com/milehigher for 20% off.
If you dread looking at your credit card statements, well, don't worry, you're not alone. We've all been there. Debt can feel crippling, but Upstart can help you get on the path to financial freedom. Upstart is the fast and easy way to pay off your debt with a personal loan all online. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 500,000 people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment. Seriously, this is one of the best ways to get out of debt, is to consolidate that debt into one payment and slowly pay it off over time. And Upstart can absolutely help you. And maybe, hey, your credit's not so good. Well, Upstart knows that you're more than just your credit score, and they look at a bunch of other factors like your employment and education and a bunch of other things as well, which is really cool. So with a 5-minute online rate check, you can actually see your rate up front for loans between $1,000 and $50,000. It doesn't hurt to at least do the 5-minute little online rate check to see what you might be qualified for. And best of all, you can receive the funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/milehigher. That's upstart.com/milehigher. And don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Again, check out Upstart at upstart.com/milehigher. Now that we've talked quite a bit about the idea of UFOs being some type of extraterrestrial being, piloting them, or even humans or man-made UFOs piloted by, some other country out there that we just don't know about. Let's look at some other theories that are out there that I think are very interesting. And this first theory that I found comes from Mac Tonnies, who's no longer with us. But he came up with this idea that we are sharing the planet with a species that's as possibly as far in advance of us as we are of chimpanzees in certain areas of development. And he calls these beings cryptoterrestrials. So basically, he puts forth this theory that these cryptoterrestrials are a long lost species, potentially human. They could potentially look like us. They might have some differences from us, but they are, more advanced than us in a lot of ways, but also they don't have like a global infrastructure like we have. But what they do is they utilize imagery that's often associated with extraterrestrials or aliens from other planets in order to disguise or mask their existence here on Earth and to kind of throw us off the scent. And their whole civilization is cultivated by this amazing sense of stealth. They thrive on secrecy. And it's possible that they're probably flesh and blood, and a lot of them could even pass for humans. And they've just been here far longer than we have. And so that's why they're more advanced than us in their technology and just the way that they sort of behave here on the Earth. And they're nomadic. So they're not really like, they're constantly moving around. They're not really like organized. You know what I mean? The species is very like, they kind of wander, different parts of the planet, and, where they actually live, we don't know for sure. I mean, they could live, there's a whole idea that there's a civilization inside of the Earth, the hollow Earth theory, and, the whole civilization that exists there. Potentially, could there be another species of ancient humans that resides within the planet or even among us, for all we know?
Can't be disproved.
No, it can't be disproved. What's interesting is that we might share a common ancestor with these cryptoterrestrials, because this is actually true. So today's humans carry the genes of an ancient unknown ancestor left there by hominin species intermingling perhaps 1 million years ago. And this ancestor may have been Homo erectus, but no one knows for sure. So there's this, we haven't fully like sequenced the entire human genome. And because there's just so much, there's so much DNA
beyond complicated.
But we know that there's a missing piece that we don't know where it comes from.
Can't be explained from anything else. Can't be from human.
It could, well, it's some type of human species. We just don't know which one it is. It could have been a very primitive one, but it could have been one associated with the cryptoterrestrials.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the link kind of meets up with science, is that there is this around 1% of Denisovan DNA is of unknown origin. And some 15% of these mysterious super archaic regions of DNA found in the Denisovan genome are still in circulation in humans today. But what eventually happened to this missing species remains to be seen. So could this missing species be the CTs?
Missing part of us.
I mean, it would kind of make a lot of sense
It
that
would
there would
make
be
a lot of
another.
sense.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know
No.
the history of our Earth, really.
No. It kind of brings you back to Rh negative blood.
Exactly. What's that about?
Yeah.
We were, you know, maybe it goes back to this other race or species of humans,
It totally could.
the cryptoterrestrials. So now let's switch to another hypothesis known as the interdimensional hypothesis, which is a very popular idea out there. And you had brought it up that Dr. Greer is like, it's not all interdimensional. But, you know, there are a lot of ufologists that believe that the connection between the paranormal and UFOs is direct. There is a direct connection between what we associate paranormal activity, poltergeists, spirits, ghosts, with interdimensional beings. The two are connected. And therefore, you know, we know that there's other realities, there's other dimensions. You know, tons of scientists have looked at this, and we've discovered that there are absolutely multiple dimensions to our reality.
So it's like, I mean, part of the reason he gets so much criticism, he makes these bold claims as if he knows everything.
Right. And how could he know everything?
And I still really enjoy listening to what he has to say, and I've learned a lot from him over the years. But there's definitely some things that I question for sure. He's very just stuck behind his own interpretation of everything.
Exactly. Well, I think he's created his own MO. Like, he's got his own sort of brand of ufology and his own story of what he believes the truth is. But to me, the interdimensional hypothesis makes a lot of sense versus the idea that these are all beings from other planets that have traveled across the universe to come visit us here on Earth. To me, that seems, the more I've researched things, the more I've gone away from the idea that UFOs are aliens from other planets and other star systems here visiting us. And I've gone towards the idea that these are interdimensional, and they could even be interdimensional beings. I mean, I really believe in the paranormal. I really believe that there is a lot of activity happening all around us. It's just in another dimension that we can't see.
Sense. Yeah.
We don't have that sense to see it or tap into it really, unless you are
and sometimes
clairvoyant.
You have those
or
experiences, paranormal experiences, where you get like a little, it kind of crosses
sense
over
it.
a bit.
Exactly. And then you have people that are full on mediums and clairvoyants that tap into this other dimension, depending on your faith, you might call it the spiritual realm, but really it's another dimension of existence that's all around us. So I think when you see these UFOs, they materialize and they dematerialize, and they're oftentimes orbs of light. And I think, and the fact that they're flying all around at these high rates of speed, I think is because they are interdimensional. They're literally moving in between the dimensions, and that's what allows them to essentially appear in front of our eyes and then vanish.
Yeah, that's like the only thing that makes sense. Unless they literally become invisible at certain points, they're able to do that, which that's possible too. But
well, and then there's Dr. Greer, who taps in the spiritual side of things, and through CE5 meditation, you can actually sort of conjure these UFOs and beings on command using his protocols. And what's interesting is Tom DeLonge also knows about this, and he claims that another ufologist, Jacques Vallée, or I probably said that wrong, Vallée, he brought an experiencer, a CE5 experiencer, to the Pentagon who was actually able to make a UFO appear on command. And I always wondered who that person is. I wonder if it was Dr. Greer, but Dr. Greer's never confirmed that it was him. But Tom said that the orbs that appear when you do the CE5 meditation are these little machines, drones or whatever, that just sit there and wait for somebody to do that meditation protocol. And then it senses the frequency of somebody wanting to see it. And then it decloaks itself for people to see. And he also said he doesn't recommend summoning these orbs, because then it goes back to the whole demon thing, what are you actually conjuring? What are you actually communicating with? Is it
because there is some dark shit out there.
Peaceful alien, or are you communicating with something that's just masking itself as something peaceful when in fact
that's why that whole world just freaks me out. I've heard too many stories.
Right. And then that kind of leads you to sort of the last hypothesis of, is this potentially, the aliens that we're always talking about and wondering about, are they us? Are they just future humans?
Yeah.
Coming back to observe the past.
And that's always been a theory that you've seemed to align with a bit more.
Yeah. Well, I think when you really dive into time travel and you really look at the science behind it, and you look at what Stephen Hawking was working on and Albert Einstein, and I mean, they basically prove that theoretically time travel is possible. There is a way to achieve it. It's right now, we don't know how to do it because it involves, singularity in a black hole
It's possible they know how to do it. Certain people. I mean,
right.
I think CERN knows a lot.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised if they already understand that.
Yeah.
Or are already doing it.
It's very true. They could be. But there is this professor from Montana. I think we've mentioned him on the show before, and he actually wrote a whole book about this theory. Michael Masters is his name. He's a professor of biological anthropology at Montana Technological University. And he presented this idea in his book, and he actually dubs these visitors who are piloting these UFOs from the distant future as extraterrestrials, noting that close encounter reports typically describe these interdimensional beings as hairless, bipedal, human-esque beings with large eyes, large brains, small noses, and small mouths. He also states that these creatures are also often said to have the ability to communicate with us in our own languages and technologies that, while far advanced, seem to be built upon the technological prowess of today's times. I think it's very possible that these UFOs, the more we study them, and maybe even the government already knows that, or is already working with time travelers from a future timeline. I mean, it seems very possible. We know it's possible to time travel. Maybe, like you said, the technology already exists, and that's in fact what we're dealing with is future versions of us, humans, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years into the future, coming back to observe us, and also helping, the whole idea of shutting down nuclear, launches and things like that is because they're here to prevent us from destroying things and preventing the future from playing out at all. I mean,
I think that theory makes a lot of sense, but you could also look at it that it's an extraterrestrial force that doesn't want us to blow ourselves up either. Maybe
way.
They don't know the future, but they can just see how things are fucking going,
right?
Just by looking at our asses.
Right.
But
they're all really compelling theories.
Yeah,
so
they really are.
But I think that's where we'll end it today.
Yeah, that was a lot of information.
It was. God.
We want to know what you guys think about the recent document drop. And if you check out Dr. Greer's latest documentary, what you think about it personally, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Whether you agree with him or not, it just gets your brain going.
Yeah, and I mean, there is a lot of truth to it too. I'm not saying it's all, bullshit
but
or
you're
something.
Questioning.
But you have to
always
question
good.
it.
With this type of stuff, you have to question people because there is so much just incorrect information, misleading things,
like
stuff
Lou
that's
said,
straight up made up.
Charlatans out there that claim to know things, claim to be in contact with certain alien groups and whatnot. And so
you got to be careful.
You do.
And I agree. I don't think, I'm just still mixed on Dr. Greer. I'm like 75% there, but like there's a big chunk of me that questions a lot of what he says. Just because he speaks with such confidence about things that he doesn't have evidence to back it up for. But that's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, let us know what you thought. Let us know what you think of these different theories, which one makes the most sense to you out of the ones we discussed today. And we'll have to do more of this in the future. Obviously, I love this topic so much. So there's so much more to tackle with UFOs and the alien question. So we'll go ahead and wrap up today's episode there. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Mile Higher Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed on all platforms, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a rating or review. We'd really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next week.
But until then, take your mind a mile higher.